With the position players taken care of, we're going to be looking at the Steamer projections on Fangraphs. For the pitching staff today, we're starting with the relievers. Matt Festa, not really much change for him. They project him to have a 3.77 ERA, whereas he had a 4.17 last year. Similar innings pitched. Nothing really changed for him. Their newly acquired Trevor Gott, they have him lowering his ERA from a 4.14 to a 3.92, but still negligible differences here between him and Matt Festa. The big one we want to take care of really fast, though, is Penn Murphy. Penn Murphy was a breakout reliever for the Mariners last year. He pitched the most innings as a reliever last year for the Seattle Mariners, but in 2023, they have him taking a step back for some reason. Steamer has him at a 3.91 ERA, whereas in 2022, he had a 2.99 ERA. They have him taking a couple steps back in some statistical categories here. In 2022, he struck out 76 batters, where in the projections, they only have him striking out 62. But let's go to another piece of the bullpen. Colton, take us away.
The big bounce! They have Diego Castillo getting a little bit better in some categories, a little bit worse in a few others. In 2022, he pitched in 54 innings. In 2023, they haven't pitched in 63. So, hey, another 10 innings. Good job, Diego. They do have his strikeout rate going up to a 9.51 Ks per 9. They also have his walks per 9 going down a tad to 3.33. And we're also looking at his ERA going down to 3.52 with a WAR of about 0.4. Again, not that big of a deal, but Joe, how do you feel about the big boss in 2023?
I really do think that the shoulder inflammation that put him on the IL last year did affect his command a lot, and we saw that in his up and down performance. He was hot and cold all throughout the year. I think if he remains a little bit consistent and can get that control back, Diego Castillo can definitely return back to form. Maybe not exactly what he was when we first got him, but still a very serviceable back-end reliever. And now this next one's a little bit weird because we don't really know what the Mariners' plans are for Matt Brash next year, but Steamer still has him as a reliever, so that's what we're going with. In 63 games, they have him pitching 63 innings. Works out for a one-inning reliever. They have his Ks per 9 staying pretty similar, but his walks per 9 are taking a big dip, which is a good thing. 5.86 in 2022. In 2023, they have him as a 4.14 walks per 9. Really solid. His ERA is going to drop to 3.17 off that 4.44, but we all know that was inflated due to his starts he made at the beginning of the year. I still think Matt Brash is a solid piece to keep at the back end of our bullpen. Colton, do you think Matt Brash should stay as a reliever?
If the Mariners make him a starter, burn it down. And speaking of fire, we're going to the fire breather himself, Andres Munoz for Los Bomberos. Andres Munoz is projected by Steamer to pitch in 65 innings, which is how many innings he pitched in 2022. They have his Ks per 9 sticking right around the same at 13.22, which is insane. They have his walks going up a little bit. They think that he'll lose a little bit of control with a 3.03 walks per 9. And we're looking at his ERA right around a 2.4, which is actually lower than it was in 2022, all equating to a 1.3 WAR in 2023, going down a little bit. Joe, how do you feel about Los Bomberos himself, Andres Munoz?
El Bombero, if you're talking about an individual person there, Colty. Andres Munoz, I really think he could be, honestly, a top 5 reliever in all of baseball if he continues to project in that right way. He was lights out for us many times. There were some hiccups here and there, but if he can iron out those mistakes, leaving that slider over the middle of the plate a little bit too much or not locating on the fastball enough, Andres Munoz is lining up to have one of the best seasons for a reliever in Mariners history. Entering his age 33 season, Paul Sewald, the 9th inning guy for Scott Service's bullpen. They have him pitching 67 innings. His Ks per 9 are going to go up a little bit. His walks per 9 are going to go up a little bit. Very marginal differences here. The big difference here, though, is his 2022 BABIP was 0.158, which is really low. His BABIP is going up by like 120 points. It's a 277 BABIP based on his projections in 2023, which is His ERA is going to go up to 3.53 based around this. So if we see that balloon a little bit from Paul Sewald, you can bet that it's because his BABIP is going back more towards his career average. Colton, do you think that BABIP is an outlier in 2022, or do you think Paul Sewald really is that dude?
I think 2022 had to have been an outlier for C.S. Wald. I mean, and you look at his ERAs have been pretty consistent, minus, of course, last year. He was really good in terms of his ERA. But that BABIP, he's never even come close to that. He's never been below a 0.25 in his career before for BABIP, and 2022 was an anomaly year for Paul Sewald. And while it may be going back up in 2023, I really don't think that that is so bad for Paul Sewald that we really need to look too much into it. That ERA going up a little bit, I mean, sure. But I think the transition is going to be to Andres Munoz a lot for the 9th inning in 2023. And I think that maybe Paul Sewald might not get as many chances as he did in 2022. Hey, you! If you're still watching, subscribe. So for Marco Gonzales in 2023, he's going into his age 31 season. He's supposed to go 9-11 with 167 innings pitched. They expect him to have a 5.98 K per nine, a 2.44 walks per nine, and he's going to have an ERA of 4.61, which is going up from what it was before. If that is the case, that is a shame. His 0.5 WAR is very minimal compared to what we saw to Marco earlier in his career. Is he going to be with the Mariners all year? It's really tough to say. Joe, how do you feel about Marco in 2023?
I really hope they're wrong with the ERA here and like the BABIP. I think Marco, if he can locate a bit better and keep his 89-mile-an-hour fastball away from batters, I really think he can be that guy that pitches to a spot and maybe has a higher ground ball percentage than we might expect. But with the way he's been trending, I would not be surprised by these projections. And if that's the case, he's going to be replaced by the middle of the season. Continuing on here with the rotation, we're on to George Kirby, the number 4 starter projected for the Mariners in 2023. Steamer has him going 9-8, which I think is, I'm already giving my opinion. I think that's not exactly right. Over 26 starts, 143 innings pitched. George Kirby's Ks per nine is going to stay around the same at 8.61. It was 9.21 in 2022. His walks are going to go up by like a half a point, which is completely wrong. George Kirby is the master of control. I do not see that happening at all. A 3.59 ERA and a 2.3 WAR. Colton, what's up with these projections?
I agree with you, Joe. Those walks per nine, there's just no shot. George Kirby is the guy who walked like one person when he was in college in his years there. His 3.59 ERA, okay, I could see players on other teams starting to figure out George a little bit. But needless to say, I think that George Kirby is going to take a next step up, not necessarily a step back. Only 26 starts. George is pretty durable. I think he'll probably make the full season round of starts if he can. With a possible innings limit on George Kirby, there's a chance that we don't get to see him make as many starts as we would like him to. Obviously, in a perfect world, George Kirby makes all of his starts. More than likely, the last player the Mariners have signed in the past 3 decades, Robbie Ray in 2023, is projected to make all 32 of his starts. The Steamer projections have him at 191 innings pitched with a 10.31 Ks per nine, so that's going up a little bit. And his walk per nine right around the same at 2.97. They think he'll have a 3.77 ERA with a 2.5 WAR. If that's the case, I'm not sure how I feel about Robbie Ray, because in 2022 he had a 3.71 ERA, and in 2021, his Cy Young Award-winning year, he had a 2.84. Joe, how do you feel about the Yordan Alvarez neutralizer himself, Robbie Ray, in 2023?
Well, if we're looking at the projections here for Steamer, they have his home runs per nine dropping 0.2 points. So it's a 1.52 in 2022. They have it going down to 1.32. I really think if he can bring his ERA down to maybe around like 3.4, 3.3, I will be very happy with Robbie Ray, because what we got last year is definitely not what they expected. If it's back at that 3.77, I really don't think they're going to be very satisfied with it, but hopefully he can neutralize Yordan Alvarez next year. Steamer projections on Fangraphs is taking another L right here. They have Logan Gilbert over 31 starts and 176 innings pitched, going 11-11 entering his age 26 season, which is typically the start of everyone's prime in Major League Baseball. Logan Gilbert is not going to go 500 on the mound. He's going to pitch more than 176 innings, so I don't really know what they're thinking here. They got an 8.84 Ks per nine, a 2.41 walks per nine, and a 3.84 ERA with a 2.2 WAR. They really have his ERA ballooning almost a half a point there. Colton, what's going on with these projections for another young pitcher for the Mariners?
Well, Joe, if I'm being honest with you, I think that strikeout rate for Logan Gilbert is honestly a little low. I could see him pushing it back up over 9 and maybe even approaching 10 if he really starts to show what he did in the end of last season. I think Logan Gilbert is someone that we can really rely on as a horse for the Mariners with the team going forward. 176 innings is a little low to me. I mean, he pitched 185 in 2022, and they have him making almost the same amount of starts. I don't see why Logan Gilbert would be taking a step back. I don't think that we saw anything from him that really would lead us to believe that Logan Gilbert is going to be worse next year. I think that part of the rotation is a really good spot for Logan Gilbert. I like him pitching 2 right behind Luis Castillo. La Piedra himself's first full season with the Seattle Mariners. He's going into his age 30 season in 2023. They have him projected at 12-10 over 32 starts, which seems a little off to me. 195 innings pitched, a 9.49 K per nine, a 2.91 walks per nine, with a 3.34 ERA and a 3.5 WAR. The WAR, I can accept that, but seeing his ERA balloon a little bit more after pitching for the Mariners and how well he did in the playoffs, it's just hard for me to believe that Luis Castillo is going to fall off quite that much.
I really don't see any signs of regression from him. Like you said, even in the playoffs, he was pitching lights out. That 3.34, it's not bad, but as an ace, it's not what you want to see. He had a 2.99 across his 2022 season. I think it was like 3.17 with the Mariners in those like 11 starts that he made. But if I'm being honest with you guys, I really see him pushing for a spot for an AL Cy Young contending season. I don't know about y'all, but Luis Castillo, I think he's that guy.
If I'm being honest with you guys, I think Luis Castillo has a chance to start the All-Star game for the American League in T-Mobile Park in 2023.
Now, continuing with the talk about the All-Star game, based on these projections that we took a look at last time for our starting lineup, I really could see some Mariners making the All-Star game as well from that. Make sure you go check out that video. And once again, thank you guys for watching this one, and go Mariners.
Mariners.